The last stitches on the cat have been completed, except for the ending knots. Because there are magic threads in place, it's really important to make sure that the magic threads are correct. You should have all 3 pairs of the magic threads on the right hand side. So here's a magic thread with a loop, here's its partner. Here's a magic thread with a loop, and here's its partner. Here's a magic thread with a loop, and here's its partner. On the other side, going into the pinhole on the left, are the 2 pairs which worked across the pattern and therefore cannot be used with magic threads. The pins are pulled out slightly so that you're able to see on the top of the trail there are 2 pins, the left one and the right one, which we will be sewing into. So the next task is to be able to insert the magic threads into the pinhole and pull the ends. Now, when you look at the magic threads will be hidden in the short section. I'm going to push down the pin so you can see it more easily. The magic threads were started in here, which means 1/2 of each of the magic threads will be hidden in here. The magic threads will have a U. Each thread has a loop. So the magic thread that will be pulled from the top will have a U, which will go from the outside and back around. The magic thread on this side will come through the pinhole, have a loop, and come back. You need to have the loop inside the stitching. If the loop pulls all the way out to where the magic thread initially started, all you'll have is an end there. You won't have anything to secure it. So there needs to be a loop in the middle of this section. So let's look at the first pair. The first pair has a loop. Here's my loop, and it has a thread. So we need to remove the bobbin thread from the loop. So the bobbin thread, the threads were twisted twice around the bobbin. Here's the end. Remove the thread from the loop. So now you have a loop and you have a thread. But this thread has to first be sewn into the pinhole. Now, the pairs which were the working pairs should be completed last. If you want, you can start on the left-hand side of these 3 or on the right-hand side. Depends upon if you're right or left-handed or what you see works best. I'm going to start on the right so that as I'm doing each one, I'm pulling it next to the right. So first we need to find the pinhole, and if you look carefully, there is a corner, an extra pin, and then the pin that's at the end of the trail, which is this pin right here. So I need to sew the single thread into the pinhole. And I can't very well sew it in if it's connected to a bobbin. So I need to cut the thread from the bobbin. I'd say make it at least 6 inches. If you have enough thread, make it 8 inches so you don't feel like you're losing anything and you want to have something to hold on to. So I'll make it about 8 inches and I'll cut it off. I now have an end. And that end needs to be sewn into the pinhole. So place your crochet hook in the pinhole and pull that end through the pinhole. So I placed my crochet hook in the pinhole. As you can see, I have a loop, but since I have an end on it, I'm going to continue pulling until the end comes out. Now I have the end, and the end goes inside my loop. Make sure there aren't any twists on the loop, and pull the thread through the loop. You can put it through with your hands, put it through with a crochet hook, but put the thread through the loop. It's easier with your fingers, I think. So the thread is now through the loop. The next job is to find on the other side which thread is connected to that loop. You pin them above, remove the pin, and if you slightly pull, you should see your loop moving. As you can see, it's getting smaller. I pull it up so that it gets close to the thread. I hold onto the thread, and I can feel the thread beginning to pull slightly inside. Remember, if I pull it too far, I'm going to have it coming out the other side. I need to have it in the middle, and if you look at it carefully, I can actually see my little tiny loop right there. That's the one that is moving back and forth. I'm going to leave it there because it's just about in the middle. I pulled it down another stitch. So now I have the two ends and they're completed. I take the next two. Remember what I did first? I first cut the piece at about 8 inches, the single piece. I take the second bobbin, which has the pair attached, and as you can see, my loop is still the right color of the cat, but the extra thread is white because I ran out of thread. In other words, I had just enough. I can either cut that off or I can unfurl it from the bobbin and remove it from the loop. Once I have the loop, I now have to sew into that pinhole again. Usually the second time I can use the crochet hook. By the third time, I'm using my Lazy Susan. So go into the pinhole again and pick up the single thread and pull it through the pinhole. We are then going to put the end of that thread into our loop and move it until it's halfway inside the area that I have the two threads. So I pulled the single thread through the pinhole. I have the loop from my magic thread, and I am going to pull the single thread through that loop. I'm going to find on the other side the thread which is connected to my loop, and if I pull it, as you can see it's moving, I pull it up inside, and if I hold on to both threads, I can feel it moving inside. It's now halfway inside, both threads are finished, and I'm able to go to the last one. The last pair is more difficult to get into that pinhole, so I tend to use a Lazy Susan so I don't have problems. So pull the single thread through the pinhole and do the same thing with the loop. The last thread has been pulled through the pinhole. Pull the last single thread through the magic thread loop and do the same thing that you did last time, holding on to both ends and pulling them through. As I pull the other end, you can see it's slightly getting smaller. You don't want it to twist up, so sometimes I hold it a little bit to make sure it hasn't twisted. And as you're pulling it, I can actually, I hope you heard those little clicks. Those clicks were the little, I won't call it a knot, but the two loops pulling through the actual stitching. So all the magic threads are finished. So all you have left are 2 pairs of bobbins, which you need to sew into the last pinhole and tie a knot. You could take a needle and actually work it through the trail so that you won't see it. And after you're finished, all you have to do is trim all these ends. As you probably noticed, in order to show you this ending, I have reworked the head of the cat. I'm assuming you would be doing this at the end of a normal session with the cat. It turns out I probably used 1.5 yards on each bobbin as I was doing the size 6-inch cat. Thank you very much.